Welcome to Module 1, What are Media? Do you use, read, view any of these? Books, movies, talk shows, soap operas, billboards, commercials, or YouTube videos? Media literacy. Soap operas, billboards, commercials, or YouTube videos? Media literacy. To understand media, we must become literate. We will discuss media literacy throughout this course. First, let's get a basic understanding. Media literacy is a way of thinking about media. Media literacy is a way of deconstructing media messages to gain more control over them. Media have tremendous power to influence. Let's take into consideration factors that contribute to the development of media. 1. Technological development. This is the development of new media forms. 2. Economics. This is the need and desire to make money or profit. 3. Human creativity. This is the work of all those producing media content or media messages. 4. Social controls. Social controls are implemented by people in positions of power, especially governments, who attempt to control what appears in the media and what does not. And 5. Audiences. Audiences, through their consumption of media, ensure their success or failure. So, what media do you watch, read, or use? Do media have positive influences on our society? If so, how? Why should we be cautious concerning media? Instead of merely rejecting media because of perceived stereotyping or other fallacies, we will take a critical approach to analyzing media. We will gather information, look for patterns, analyze those patterns to make informed judgments. Once we have this information, we can then act and either maintain how media influences our society or change it. So what are the functions of media? What are they supposed to do? Many believe media are simply used to entertain. However, media can do so much more. Media entertain, provoke, enlighten, engage, and represent, just to name a few. Do media represent you accurately? What do media say about our social values? Describe this visual. What do you see? Intersectionality is a sociological theory that takes into consideration more than one position of identity to analyze society sociologically, and by doing this we can analyze sociological phenomenon and their life chances. For example, instead of just focusing on women generally, intersectionality can analyze experiences of black middle-class women. Here we are focusing on race, class, and gender simultaneously. One key function of intersectionality is that it focuses on identities and how they are formed. No two people will share the exact identity or have the same experiences because of that identity. Another component of intersectionality is that it's vital to know that an individual or group may be privileged and oppressed at the same time. For example, a Caucasian middle-class female may be privileged because of her race and class standing. She is oppressed because she is of a subordinate. Now reflect. Is America really fulfilling its promise of equality for all? Is equality an American value? In this course, we will use Patricia Hill Collins' theory of intersectionality called the matrix of domination. The matrix of domination proposes that race, class, and gender produce privilege and oppression. Again, each individual may hold positions of privilege and oppression simultaneously. So now let's focus on this idea of intersectionality and how it relates to our various identity further. Take a moment to think about where you can see a representation of your identities. Is there a particular place in media that represents your identities accurately? Are all your identities validated in media? In this class, We will explore how media represents or does not represent race, class, and gender groups in media. What do you see in this picture? What story do you think it tells? Now let's think about how all of our various forms of identity and oppression are connected. As stated previously, we will use a sociological perspective to analyze this course. Although many of you have taken at least one sociology course, a brief overview will make sure we are all on the same page. So, there are three levels of sociological analysis: micro, macro, and meso. Let's take a look at the micro level of sociology first. Micro focus on small-scale interactions between individuals. At this level, society is viewed from a personal level. An example of this is conversations between individuals. Next, let's talk about macro-level sociology. This level focuses on large-scale social processes and institutions and how they produce social stability and change. Social processes can include urbanization, industrialization, and migration. Social institutions can include the economy, education, and media, for example. An example at work is the attainment of higher education leading to higher social mobility for some. Lastly, the meso level of sociology focuses on how institutions affect individuals and groups. The meso level is a bridge between the micro or personal level to the macro or institutional level of sociology. Throughout the duration of this course, I will encourage you to understand that you have agency or power to make social change. Patricia Hill Collins and others emphasize resistance and how that resistance leads to social change. Resistance can occur at all levels of sociology. In the case of media, individuals can change their viewing habits to match their political leanings. When groups are conscious, they can resist the dominant ideology persistent in the media and demand or create media images of their own. Although allies are needed to ensure social change, Collins insists overcoming oppression can only occur when those who are inferiorized or subordinated set the terms of resistance and change. This is needed because those who are marginalized and colonized have authentic voices or ways of knowing that are usually not supported in many institutions. The hidden curriculum is resisted by this. A hidden curriculum is education that is supposedly unintended and disseminates norms, values, and beliefs of dominant society. This is also known as the dominant ideology. It is how the majority of the population thinks about society. Hill contends that dominant groups aim to replace subjective knowledge by their own specialized knowledge because they realize that gaining control over this dimension of subordinate groups' lives simplifies control. Those who use resistance oppose the dominant ideology to assert their own ways of knowing, believing, and living. What do you resist against and why? What social institutions do you want changed? And what actions will you take to create social change? I know that this first lesson is a lot to take in, but I hope that it sparks something in you. One of my intentions for this class is for it to mean something to you and your personal lives. Take some time for reflection. Draw a social identity wheel for yourself and fill out the respective categories. Now answer the following questions. Which part of the wheel is easiest to fill out? Which part of the wheel is most difficult to fill out? Are there important aspects of your identity that do not fit the wheel? Were you surprised by any of the categories on the wheel? How would you explain your identity to a stranger? What part of your identities do you love? What parts of your identities give you privilege? What are your insider and outsider identities? What stereotypes of one of your identities do you want to dismantle? Now think about the way you think. What are your unique ways of knowing?